There we go. I'll just get rid of that box and we're good to go. Great. Okay. Feet parallel underneath the hips. Just have a little jig into the feet. Let all the muscles in the body be completely loose. Suspend yourself from the head top. Really, really make sure there's movement in the lower back by softening the hips and allowing this junction between the spine and the pelvis to be as loose as you can. Often we hold tension in this part of the body. We don't even realize we're doing it. And in Tai Chi, we want that whole junction of the lower back to be as fluid as possible. So while we're sinking, while the knees are bending, while the thighs are melting, the lower back's automatically following an opening. And if that's held tight there, then it can't change. But as soon as it softens, this here is the angle of the lower back, the hips tucking under, that angle just changes. When the knees bend, the lower back follows. And it's as if your tailbone, that little pointy bit on the tail, is then dropped and points towards the ball of the foot. Or if you're in a bow stance, it drops and tucks under, pointing towards the ball of the front foot. So you follow that pointy bit of the tailbone and you let it move towards the ball of the front foot. And with it, it opens the whole of this area here. And by placing your awareness into that area, you can start to get it to change more. So with the bouncing, I'm just letting the shoulder girdle move and change as well. I'm fully aware of the crown of the head and letting everything hang off. I'm just going to open up the arms to stretch open the chest and let them fold across each other to stretch open the back. And then moving the arms this way, again, to stretch open all this tissue of the body, to get the range of movement big, to get the possible range big. And lifting the arms straight up, bringing the weight onto the left foot, the right arm comes straight up, so I feel the stretch of the body upwards. When the body's in an upward stretch position, I move my weight across. Keep that stretch and let the arm fall outwards. And I'm opening up between the elbow and the hip, all these muscles here softening, and I'm letting the ribs open up. Coming back up with the hand, letting the body be pulled up to vertical position, stretching upwards. Keep the stretch. It's important to keep the opening of the body while you go into this posture. So the whole body is stretching open from the fingertips all the way through to the hips, definitely between the elbow and the hips. You can feel this whole, you can work with the ribs. Keep the hand above the head, keep the palm facing the ground. Don't let the arm come in front of the body. If I do it sideways on, the hand is above the head. And the fingers are pointing outwards towards the side. You don't have to stay in the position for a long time, but keep fluid, opening up, softening and releasing this side between the hip and the elbow. And bring the hand up first, and as the hand drops, it levers the body back up, and then all this area has been opened up. So when we go into the loosening exercise, this area is now free. Loose a little bit, sinking. Both legs sink, turning, stabilizing. rebound. Both legs sink, turning, stabilizing, rebounding. Both knees bend, both sink, turning.
When you do the stretch up, Luke, are you trying to keep your hips in place?
Which stretch up, Brian? Yeah. Are you trying to keep your hips in place? Yes. So when you stretch, when you lift here, you're staying vertically aligned. But then when you move across, that's when you start to lean, and yeah, the hips move. So when you move across here, you're not trying to keep your hips level. You're allowing your whole body to be a bamboo that folds here. So you've got to stretch right from your hand right through to your foot, really. And yes, there's a lean of the spine, and with it a lean of the hips. Yeah. It's not a Tai Chi exercise, it's more of a yoga exercise. And the principles of the hips staying level don't apply because it comes from yoga. If you want to ask about that, you have to find a yogi to ask. I don't know about. All I know about is how the hips stay level in Tai Chi. I'm always told the hips mustn't do this, but in that exercise it does, because the exercise doesn't come from Tai Chi, it comes from yoga. But that said, it's a really good exercise for opening up this part of the body, which the only other exercise I can think of in Tai Chi possibly is when we do the draw the bow, that we get to open up these areas, or this exercise when we move the hand round into this position is when we open up this area. Other than that, there aren't many big stretching up. I'm white crane spreads wings, but we're only in it for a short time. Anyway, I hope that answers the question. Back to the first loosening exercise. We want to make sure that when we come into this position, we're really comfortable in the body. We haven't moved into a position where our ankle's tight. We haven't moved into a position where the body's out of alignment. We haven't moved into a position where one hip is turning and the other isn't. The whole body's changed and settled. And settled means the muscles have released and gravity is acting on the body and pressing it into position. And because of the weight of the body doesn't tighten. The muscles receive the weight of the body. The muscles don't counterbalance the weight of the body by pushing back against the body to hold it in place. The muscles soften and receive the weight of the body. This is the quality we want as we sink and turn and stabilize and drop. We sink as if we're settling into sand. We turn and pass the weight, and we keep sinking and releasing, and the upper body softens, and the arms drop to their full length, and then from the elbow fold up. I'm turned, I wouldn't say 45 degrees, I'd say slightly less than 45 degrees, probably 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, rather than 10:30 and 1:30. I'd say there's slightly less turn than 45 degrees in this one. Sink, turn, pass the weight, fully release. Sink, turn, pass the weight, fully release. Rebound. As you're turning the hips back, drop the arms, and they arrive at the height of the shoulders at the same time as the body squares. Sink. Remember, both legs active when you sink. Both legs are drawing down. Sink. Turn. Pass the weight. fully release. Square, sink, turn, pass the weight, fully release. Square, sink, draw down, turn, both hips are turning. Pass the weight, keep drawing down, keep turning, keep passing the weight smoothly. Fully release the shoulder girdle. Make sure one hip isn't lower than the other, both hips stay level. Turn to about 11 o'clock. Both legs draw down. Body turns. Body releases, connects. We're looking for a connected, upright, fully released and buoyant posture, without any sense of the body being overly twisted, the muscles in the body being twisted, because they haven't released. When you move, it'll twist the muscles. The muscles need to change and release to accommodate the shift of weight, to accommodate the shift of the turning of the center. Elongate the muscles when they relax, elongate to allow the body to move. If the muscles don't change, they're shorter, they're half contracted, holding the body in place. If the muscles are short and you try and move, they don't have the freedom of movement to allow you to fully move. So when you relax the muscle, it elongates, which gives you freedom of movement to find the position we're looking for in a comfortable way. If the muscles are still holding and you try and turn against the muscle, you'll feel tightness and pressure somewhere in the body. Second exercise, starting point is the same. Both legs draw down. First movement is sinking into sand. Don't look for increased foot pressure, just bend the knees and take the body down to a connected position. Then soften inside the whole body and let the pressure increase inside the body. 2 stages. And then third is coming up, rebounding. First, sinking into sand, and then releasing inside the body, opening the lower back, elongating the spine as the center falls away from the crown of the head. The whole body gets pressed onto the ground, and the pressure inside the body increases. The first thing to find is the connected, upright, relaxed body.
You're frozen, Luke, I think.
Sorry, I dropped out of connection there. I've just come back in. So, hi, Mark. Didn't see that before. Good. I'll just have a look at your second loosening exercise. If there's any questions with it, while I'm looking, you can feel free to ask. The couple of important points on this, if you just stop and have a look. The opening up, if you take your left hand and put it underneath your armpit and you move your hand along your arm, that's the movement of opening up. It's like a wave that changes your shoulder joint, changes your elbow joint. When the wave gets to about here, your shoulder starts to drop. So it's like something moves along your hand. You don't want to be moving with the shoulders staying stuck and the movement coming from the elbow. This is like cooked spaghetti and it's far too loose, and this part of the body is disconnected from the shoulder. You want the movement coming through the whole arm. So the shoulder drops in order to create movement in the elbow. When the shoulder drops, it creates movement in the elbow. When the elbow moves, the wrist has to follow. There needs to be a passivity in the hands. If you move like this, there's an activity in the hands. What you want is a passivity in the hands that follows what comes through the arm. It's really tempting to do these exercises by thinking about the movement of the wrist, but it's a movement of the whole arm, and the changes downwards are the same. The shoulder first, and the shoulder continues to drop while to put the elbow into a different position, and continues to drop to put the elbow into a different position, and continues to drop to finish the movement. So there's a continuous movement of the shoulder opening and closing. The whole shoulder girdle is opening and closing, and opening and closing. And this life that you have in the shoulders is why we do these exercises at the beginning of class, to create the range of change, so that when we come to do moves like turn and open here, this movement is including the whole change in the shoulder girdle. Shoulder, as the body sinks, the shoulder sinks and connects, drawing the arm in, because the classics say that the fingertips are the last things to move, and they come from the movement of the center, all directed with the intention of the mind. So we want the movement of the arms to follow the movement of the center. And in the fourth loosening exercise, it's a little bit easier to find because the timing is closer to the body timing. So when we lift, shoulders dropping and opening. When we sink, the chest is softening. When we sink the legs into the sand, the chest is softening. Shoulder drops, the hands drop in. The hands don't move independently. The hands only move in because the shoulder drops in. Shoulder drops. Shoulders only drop because the chest is softening. The chest can only soften because the whole torso is dropping into the legs. The knees are bending, creating space to draw down. So from here, the whole body's open. As we sink, the body is closing into a connected position. This connected position is loose, and gravity presses each part of the body down onto the part below it. So we fall an inch or two into an aligned posture that's lightly connected and lightly pressed onto the ground. And the structure needs to be clear so the body can fall freely and loosely. So when you arrive in this position, open, sink the knees, open the lower back, soften the chest, drop the shoulders. When you arrive in this position, you feel really loose, as if a wind would blow through the room, the body would sway. You don't want to feel held in place.
You don't want to feel tension in the legs that lock you and hold you in place. You don't want to feel strong from your muscles. You want to feel strong from the weight of your body pressing you in. Right? Two completely different sensations. Strength that comes from holding yourself in a strong position. You can feel it. You grip your fist into a fist, and your fist feels strong because of the contracted muscles. It feels strong. It's pushing into itself, onto itself, and it feels denser. But there's a density that comes from letting go. And when you soften the muscles, the weight of the body itself presses into itself. And there's a density that comes when you relax. Feels completely different, feels very buoyant, but by relaxing, you don't get rid of the weight of the body, and you don't get rid of the forces of gravity and the weight of the body. Because we often think that if we relax, we're going to feel loose and soft. It's not true. You've still got the weight of your body. Whatever you do, you can't get rid of the weight of your body. You can't get rid of gravity. So when you relax, you're still going to feel the weight of your body pressing into itself and onto the ground. You're still going to feel the force of the resistance of your structure. You're not going to get rid of the force, and you're not going to get rid of the weight. You're going to get rid of the contraction of the muscles. And getting rid of the contracted muscles, we talk about being soft, we talk about being loose, doesn't mean you're going to become weightless. Doesn't mean you're going to be all loose and completely free and light and airy and all the things we kind of associate with being soft. What you are going to be is you're going to be buoyantly pressed into structure, and buoyantly your weight is going to press buoyantly into itself and onto the ground, and you're going to meet the force that buoyantly supports you. It's like a big iron boat sitting in the water. Why doesn't the boat sink? I don't know, but the weight of the water it displaces, this is the magic of how a boat sinks, floats on water. The water displacement and the shape of the bottom of the boat, I don't know the physics, but that buoyantly supports that boat. Okay, there's definitely the weight of the boat. It's a 1,000-ton boat. Definitely the softness of the water. The boat doesn't sink. The water supports it. We need to find the water in our bodies that supports the weight of our body, rather than the muscles in our body that hold us away from the ground. And they're two very different systems of strength. They're both strong, but they feel very different. And to access them, one we're very fluid with, we know how to lift ourselves off the ground, we know how to tighten our muscles, we know how to keep the erector muscles active. We've been doing it all our lives. What we don't know so well is how to find the other one, which is what our Taiji is teaching us. And it's completely changing our balance on the ground, because we can be balanced on the ground very, 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 very gently, but fully letting our body weight go, rather than being held on the ground by the tightening of the muscle groups that support our structure. Now, I'm not going to talk any more about it. That's quite a good long, I don't know about good, it's long section on what we're aiming for, but you need to understand the theory, okay? You need to understand why it's important to practice in a certain way before you do, because the way we work, when we fully, that's the way I want it, that's the reason why I want to do that, and then you start to see the importance of it. And when you see the reason and the importance, you put it into your practice and you start to look for it, which is very different from just being told what to do, right? It's important to understand. Taiji in China, they don't tell you why you do things. They just say, follow the teacher, follow the teacher, follow the teacher. We have to rationally work out and understand what we're trying to feel. So when you drop the arms, don't just let them become spaghetti. Let the shoulders go. Keep the hands where they are and make sure the shoulders actually change first. So keep the hand where it is, change the shoulder, and only when the shoulder's changing, see if that movement can come into the hand. See if the signal to move the hand can come from what you do in the shoulder girdle, not from what you do in the wrist. Drop the shoulder girdle. Learn how to organize your body so the shoulder girdle sits on top of the chest, floats on top of the chest, sinks into the chest. And as a result, the elbows drop and the hands drop. What are we doing? We're doing number 2 at the moment. Let's go to number 4. Use the legs to push up. Soften the body. So it's like the body's pushing through the shoulders. Shoulders stay there and the body pushes through, and the shoulders have to slide out of the way because the torso is being pushed upwards. The inertia of the shoulders is there. The shoulders stay sinking while the body pushes up, and that opens up the arms. Then the body closes, the knees bend, sinking into sand. Torso softens to follow. Lower back opens to follow the legs. Shoulders soften to follow the base. When the shoulders start to move, the elbows follow, the wrists follow, and the whole body closes together and finishes closing together. The movement of the sinking finishes the movement of the body. The internal changes of sinking and releasing finish at the same time as the external movement. So you could say, I'm going to say anyway, the external movements are led by the internal changes. What does that mean? It means that we don't just do the movements. We feel the muscles change. We feel the body settling. We feel the body releasing, which creates the movements. The movements of the form are exactly the same. In that we move into holding the ball. In this position, we don't want to be stuck. We want to be lightly balanced on the ground, sinking into the feet, opening the lower back, relaxing the shoulders, connected. First stage is to move into the center, both legs draw down, and you become into a connected position. Then, from being connected, you increase the pressure in the body. The fluid forces in the body increase by dropping the back knee, opening the lower back, dropping the shoulders, changing the connection to the front foot, and the wave can come through to the hands. As the back leg expands, it first sinks and then it expands. I'm exaggerating the movement of the back leg. It first drops into a stretched position and then it expands. It drops into a stretched position. The hip opens, the knee drops, the thigh muscle stretches. That stretch propels as the leg expands. At the same time, you're softening the front hip joint and allowing the connection to pass to the front leg. You're loading the back leg, changing to the front leg. The wave comes through to the hands. If you forget the hands, the first thing to do is the base. The first part is as you're moving into the center, both legs take you into a connected position. First connect, then load, and then rebound. You have to work in those stages. Any movement of the form to bring force to the hand, the force first has to be in the ground and the leg. If you want force to come to the hand, it's not going to come by pushing the hand out. It's not going to come from contracting the muscles. It's going to come from rebounding from the ground. So the force needs to be in the leg. And the force in the leg isn't going to come to the hand by pushing it to the hand. The force in the leg first stretches and then unstretches. You have to get this mechanism working in the leg accurately before it's even going to think about coming to the hand. It first has to happen in the base by sinking and connecting into both legs, loading the back leg, releasing to the front leg. You have to get that mechanism actively working in a way that feels, you can really feel it happening in your body. So if we do the fifth loosening exercise, you sit back. Moving forward is both legs drawing you down, both knees bending and both legs changing so that the body sinks in. Don't just think of this in the back leg going in. Think of both legs, both knees bending, very similar to this movement in the form, where both knees change, the lower back opens, the chest softens, and the body connects. We're looking for a soft, released, connected position in the center. If you feel your ankles tight, if you feel you're still holding on, don't even go for the next part. Make sure that you move in such a way that you could stand in that posture for a good few minutes without even batting an eyelid. It's relaxed. If you're pushed onto the ground or anywhere in the body is tense, you can't stand in that position for a long time. Moving in is settling. Settling is comfortable. Settled position, brush left knee, twister. Then, from that position, we're going to load the back leg by dropping the back knee. How do we drop the back knee? By softening the hip joint and opening the lower back, softens the muscles, which allows the weight of the back leg to drop. The weight of the thigh and the leg is enough to push the knee onto the foot and to increase the pressure between the knee and the foot. When the knee drops, not by pushing the knee downwards, but by letting go of the weight of the thigh, it pushes onto the foot. As soon as we start to feel the back foot pressing in and the compression happening, we should at the same time soften the front hip joint and allow the body to start connecting more to the front leg. That's just a clue, really, of the timing. So first, both legs draw down, lightly connected. Second, back thigh drops, the weight of the thigh drops the knee. As you drop the knee, you'll increase the pressure between the knee and the back foot. At the same time as feeling that, you have to soften the front hip joint to allow the pelvis to be fluid. Tail, pointy tailbone points towards the front ball of the foot. And the back leg expands. This process wants to be smooth and fluid in the base. And then we can bring it up towards the fingertips. And the other side, we sit back, both legs draw you down until you feel connected. This posture, make sure you haven't compacted the ankles. All the joints feel open, but the body feels relaxed. It's different from being hard on the ground, and it's different from being strong, light and relaxed. Then, without stopping, drop the back thigh to push the knee into the foot. Immediately, that's going to increase the pressure between the knee and the foot. And if the body's loose, it wants to move. You have to allow it to move by softening the front hip joint so there's somewhere for it to go. Okay? It's like if I push into the wall, if I push onto the wall's not going to move, but the pressure between my body and my hand is going to increase. The more I push, the more eventually I'm going to be the one that moves out of the way. The more I push into the wall, the more I'm going to push myself away. The wall's not going to budge. When pressure increases somewhere, movement has to follow. If the wall's rigid, which it is, the wall isn't going to move. So the wall's not going to move, but the pressure inside the body grows and grows and grows, and my root goes and I go away. When I sink onto my back leg, the floor's not going to go anywhere, just like the wall, the floor isn't going to move. So when I increase the pressure between my back leg or between my knee and the foot, when I really increase the pressure between the knee and the foot and the body's very loose, the floor isn't going to move. So the rest of the body has to move under that pressure. I'm increasing the pressure. When the pressure gets big enough, more than the weight of my body, it's going to move my body. I have to allow myself to be loose enough to be moved by that pressure. If my front hip is tight or my front leg is locked, that's going to hold me in place. That's a bit like the wall. It's not going to go anywhere. By softening the front hip and keeping the front hip open, the pressure in the back leg has got somewhere to flow towards. Let's practice the fifth loosening exercise. And if you want to ask anything, I'm going into it in quite a lot more technical detail and explaining it more. So if you want to ask anything you're not sure, please do so while we do the exercise. Just do it half a dozen times. 1, both legs draw down. Make sure your ankles aren't tight. Make sure you're nice and loose. Make sure you're falling away from the crown of the head. Nicely balanced. 2, drop the back knee to the foot by softening the thigh and letting the thigh draw down. Soften the front hip joint so that pressure in the back leg moves your center towards the front foot. You don't physically move forward, but your center rotates and connects to the front foot. Something bubbles up through the body. Force we're looking for bubbles up through the body. Because the force doesn't stay trapped in the back leg, it's allowed to move through the changing body. Just like a wave through water, the water's allowed to move and the force passes through the water. If the water didn't move like a block of ice, the force wouldn't pass through it. But because the body is loose, the force passes through it. To train it, stages are both legs draw down, loose and balanced, increase the pressure in the back foot, soften the front hip, allow the pressure in the back leg to move the center, rotate the center, tail goes towards the ball of the front. Tail tucks under towards the ball of the front foot, and you're connected 55% in the front foot. Sit back, both legs draw down, 50-50 posture, 50-50 weight, increase the pressure in the back leg, 55 in the back leg, change it to 55 in the front leg. Sit back, draw down. Don't think of moving forwards, think about both knees bending, think about sinking into sand, falling away from the crown of the head, settling. Just like the settling we do at the beginning of the form, just like the settling and connecting we do at the beginning of the form, settling into both legs. 50-50. Change the pressure between the knee and the back foot by dropping the back thigh. Soften the front hip. Tail tucks under towards the front foot and you connect onto the front foot as the back leg expands. One more time, sit back. Don't look for strength in the body, look for sinking into the sand. Bend, body settles. Simple. We'd stand in this position for a few minutes, no problem. Now increase the pressure. Now let it go to the front foot.
Can I ask a question about dropping the back thigh?
Yeah, sure.
So that's not really like bending the knee or anything. That's just like melting the muscle, right? Just sort of loosening the muscle.
Yeah.
You increase the pressure. You're not actually physically, you're not doing anything kinetic, are you? You're just loosening the muscle, right? To increase the pressure.
Yeah, I'd say yes to that, but there is an element of the back knee bending. But I'd say it comes from the releasing of the muscles, because the back thigh, if you go to the butcher and you get a nice, it's probably going to weigh, I don't know, 6-7 kilo. The back thigh, including the buttocks, probably 10 kilos. That weight you let drop, right? So to let that weight of that leg drop, you have to soften above it to let it fall. So when you soften,
right at the beginning, you don't want to be too sunk then, because you need somewhere to sink, don't you?
Yeah, you got it.
Sinking room.
You've got it. So that's why this posture that you're just relaxed in wants to be a relaxed posture that isn't all tight and held and pushed onto the ground, because you've got to have somewhere to go. You've always got to have somewhere to go. Just like that boat sitting on the water, if you want to put another 3 or 4 big crates on it, it's got to be allowed to drop deeper into the water. If that boat was on ice and it was stuck in ice and you put more and more weight in it, it's not going to have any buoyancy. Your body has to be fluid and buoyant and light, so that when you drop the back knee, it starts to change the pressure within the body. And the way to change the pressure is to use the body itself to drop, right? You don't change the pressure by tightening the muscles to change the pressure. That's like clenching a fist. When you clench a fist, you can feel it in the palm of your hand. You clench your finger and you can feel the tightness around your finger. It's completely not that. It's more like you're dropping the weight of your hand onto your finger to push your finger, rather than tightening around your finger. Do you see the difference? I'm trying to find an analogy that's...
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
You're using the body itself as the mechanism to generate the force that's going to move through the body. It's like the body becomes like a tool, if you like, to generate force within itself. But without the structure, without the looseness of the muscles, if the muscles are too held, or the body hasn't got the structure, or the body isn't connected, any of those things aren't going to change. The forces are going to be too brittle. The forces that you make are either going to be too gross or too brittle to actually be fluid enough to move through the body. So the first stage
is, yeah, to keep the body really light and simple, and both legs simple, connected. Then you can increase the pressure by literally dropping the whole of the leg away from the hip bone downwards. We say drop the knee. It comes from changing the muscles in the thigh, changing the muscles in the lower back, and allowing the weight of the leg to fall away. So to do that, you've got to have some balance on your front leg, right? If you've got too much balance on your back leg, you can't drop down so well. But if you've got some balance on your front leg, your back leg can fall away. So if some of your connection, half of your connection is in the front leg, you can be sinking to the front leg while you're dropping the back thigh away.
Oh, okay. So it's like a simultaneous thing then.
Yeah, that's the word. So this is, I hope it's kind of like interesting or useful what we're kind of talking about tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it's been kind of like, this is a really hard thing to explain, right? And you get it from practicing it. So what I'm telling you tonight is really the theory of what we're looking for. It comes from doing it. It comes from exploring. Oh, I'm tight in my body when I do that. When I go into the center, I'm still holding on. When I go into the center, I'm too low. When I go into my center, I don't feel like I'm fully buoyant. When I go into the center, I'm not aware of falling away from the crown of my head. So you do something different. You change what you do in your practice is to change what you do so you start to feel these things more fluidly. Yeah, I want to go through the form. And I want to put some of these things into the form. We'll go through the form at each time we come into a centrally stable posture. We'll give ourselves time to first feel buoyant, first feel very loose in both legs, and put some of this into the issuing forces within the form. Okay. Lift the body. Use the legs. Use the lifting of the chest, use the lifting of the crown of the head to open up upwards. And then, softening, let the body settle. Body settles down. Every single muscle that you can feel that can be released, releases. It doesn't mean that you're going to be soft. It means that you're going to start to feel the weight of the body as it actually is without your muscles holding you in place. And something else supports you. Buoyancy of the body itself starts to support you. Both knees bend as if you're sinking into sand. Drop the right knee to increase the pressure in the right foot enough to support you to take a step. Sink in both legs and turn. Turn back. Re-examine your upright posture. Re-examine your releasing and settle. Activate the legs. The torso is pushed up through the shoulders. Hands lift. Sink into the sand. Both knees bend, lower back softens, body settles down. Everything finishing together, turn. Pass the weight to the left. Turn. As you move forward, both legs, front ankle, front knee, front hip change and fold. Both legs draw you down into the center. Find the place where 50-50 position, where you're softly settled on the ground. Ideally, without stopping in that place. Ideally, you immediately begin to increase the pressure in the back foot by dropping the back knee to the back foot, as we've discussed, softening the front hip and allowing the movement to come through to the hands. The shoulders mustn't tighten. The shoulders must soften and float. So when the chest advances, it pushes the shoulders and hands into position. We'll talk about that another time. Sink and turn. Step left, move in, turn. Lightly balanced. Before you increase the pressure, make sure the body's connected, both legs sinking, lightly pressed onto the ground, body nice and upright, chin tucked in, head top lifted, body settled. Increase the pressure in the back leg. Simultaneously, take the connection to the front foot. Wave comes through to the hand. Turn. Into the center. Both legs draw down. Balanced. Center line between the feet. Hips, shoulders straight ahead to 3 o'clock. Hands in the correct position. Shoulders floating. Accurate in the structure, accurate in the release of the body. It feels like you could stand in this posture for a good few minutes and not be bothered by it at all, because you're not holding yourself in posture. You're releasing yourself into the posture. Then the back knee is allowed to increase the pressure between the back knee and the back foot. At the same time, you're connecting your weight onto the front leg, allowing the back leg to expand. Follow it by the turning of the hips. Turn back, sit back. Both legs draw down into the center. Body's upright, released, connected, increase the pressure. Wave through to the wrists. Sit back. Both legs draw down into the center. Body's relaxed, connected, buoyant. Increase the back leg pressure. Wave through to the hand. Sit back. Turn. Single whip. Step left. Move into the center. Both legs sink into the sand. Body's upright, connected and loose. Increase the pressure in the back leg. The weight is connecting to the front foot by softening the front hip. Wave through the body into the hands. Sink and turn. Lifting hands. Shoulder stroke. Both legs draw you down into the posture. Increase the pressure in the back leg. Wave through to the hands. Spiral up. White crane spreads wings, turn and chop. Turn back and fold, take a step. Both legs draw you down into the brush left knee position. Increase the pressure through the back leg, sink onto the front leg. Wave through to the hand as the back leg expands. Drop onto the left. Don't worry about the single-legged postures for the moment. Look primarily at the bow stance postures, where both legs draw you down. Body's nice and loose and balanced. Stay there for a few minutes. Increase the pressure in the back leg between the knee and the foot. Weight gathers in the front leg, creeps in towards the front leg. Wave comes through, sinking onto the front back. Sit back. Step forward, deflect down. We're going to go into another bow stance. Both legs draw down. Body's nice and upright and connected. Into punch position. punch isn't going to happen until we increase the force in the base and then pass it through to the front leg, wave through to the punch, half-inch punch, fold, sit back into the push position. The push isn't going to come into the hands until we first loosen the body, let it lightly connect, then increase the pressure in the base. Then from the base, we borrow the force from the ground to move the body through to the fingertips, sit back. Cross hands. Just close the form now. And finally, just settle down.
Okay, I guess I'm asking us to be very, very thorough with what we do and how we practice, right? Because with Tai Chi, it's really, really easy to blur the edges and just kind of move through in the way we've always done it, right? And the habits of what we want to try and use the training method to break the habits. Breaking the habits means finding new sensations in the body, new ways of standing, new ways of releasing, new ways of connecting, new ways of increasing the pressure, new ways of slowing down enough to listen to these things, and to develop a very strong intention to work in a very particular way thoroughly. So rather than just doing the moves, we're really making sure those moves come from the sensations in the body. It's very easy just to push the hand out. It's very easy to tighten the muscles and get the movement coming into the hand. But the classics say we borrow the force from the ground. That means we have to generate the force between the knee and the ground. Then we have to allow that force to come through the changing body, just like force moves through water. Force is invisible. It's only that the water changes that it allows the force through it. If the water is frozen like ice, the force doesn't pass through. If our body's frozen like tight muscles, the force doesn't pass through. So because the force isn't passing through, what we generally do, we make the force with our muscles and we shove. And we all know that from push hands. And we all know that's not what we want to find. So we have to find a training that stops us from being gross and starts to make us understand where these forces are, how we generate them in our body, and how we bring them up through the body to make them available in the fingertip. That's the project, if you like, with Tai Chi. So, and in the process of doing that, because that's not the end point, the process of doing that, we're developing a very strong intention. We're developing a very strong sense of listening to ourselves and finding out about ourselves as we go. That's the aim, beyond just getting a push into the hand. That's just the fun bit. When you can throw people, there's a fun bit. Yeah, it's kind of like the icing on the cake, because it's fun. It's fun to do that and push hands. It's entertaining. To find that force as a genuine force is an art. It's an art form. And someone once asked Dr. Shen, who was a Qigong teacher of mine about 20 years ago before I met Patrick, trained with him for about 4 years. And they said, why do people do Tai Chi? And they said, it's an art form and people love refining their art. A much nicer reason than it being a fighting form or anything else. It's a form we refine because it's an art form. Martial art, I guess. Well, that should give you something to work with this week anyway. Good. As ever. And you know, I've got a couple more minutes. If there are any questions now, that's fine. Or if there's any emails or anything you need to send me during the week, that's fine. If anyone's got a question now, because I've talked a lot this evening. Yeah.
I was going to ask one thing. So that you've got the push hands on the Sunday in the workshop. So there's 2 push hand sessions, yeah? So I've just signed up for the beginners one because I haven't done the push hands in so long. I used to do a lot of it, but I haven't done it since. But how advanced will it be, out of curiosity, the afternoon? Will it be sort of people that know your pattern? Is it pretty standard?
So I kind of sent out the information about the workshop, and Brian's asking about the workshop coming up on the 5th and 6th of Feb. The way I teach is I look at who's in the room and I look at what people need to learn, right?
Right.
If someone's there, I wouldn't make someone struggle with a whole load of new patterns and go away kind of completely dumbfounded. I kind of say, well, like, you two work together. You know that pattern, stay working with this one thing so you actually get the most from it. So
yeah, I guess people know it though.
Yeah, so there'll be people there at different levels, and some people will be working with some things. And the way I teach, and the rest of the students have been on my workshops will tell you, I kind of go around individually. We're all doing a pattern together. I'll go around individually and work with a couple of people for 4 or 5 minutes, and just look at what's going on and look at what they can best get from it. And some people, that's going to be keeping it really simple, even though they might be in a more advanced pattern. Just keep it simple within the pattern. And some people can go right into the minutiae of the forces within that pattern according to their level.
Yeah. So based on that, because I have done it before, but it's been so long. Would it be okay if I just pay for the whole both days?
Yeah,
and then if I'm burned out after the morning, I'll just leave it.
Yeah, and if you decide to leave it, we'll do a refund.
No, don't worry about that. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks, Luke.
Okay, you're welcome. Good. Okay. Good. It's a lifetime's art, Tai Chi. Yeah, it really is a lifetime's art. Don't expect to get any of the stuff like next week or the week after. I joked to Brian saying it'll take him 3 weeks to get sinking in an email this week. It's an ongoing exploration.
It's only been a couple of decades. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've been doing Tai Chi nearly, I think it's 40 years this year. And I feel like I'm just getting to grips with some of the kind of like the processes of it just now. It's bizarre, You think, what the hell was I doing 20 years ago when I thought I knew what I was doing? Oh yeah, that's Tai Chi for you. Great. Have a really good week. Keep well. Keep sinking, and keep enjoying your practice.
Cheers, Luke. Thanks, guys.
Nice one. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Luke.